Well, good morning. And David gave you a very good overview of generally where the federal program is going. And I wanted to add just a bit more community detail and tell you about the Beth Israel Deaconess issues, very similar to the ones that you've described. So at a high level, and if you could just put up my slides. Remember that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, $787 billion now, almost a year ago today, I think it was February 17th that it was signed, had 8 principles, which were things like protecting privacy, implementing electronic health records, ensuring interoperability, building disclosure logging. I mean, a lot of very good goals in that high-tech act that were then translated into 3 regulations: the interim final rule on standards, the notice of proposed rulemaking on meaningful use, and to come is the notice of proposed rulemaking on certification. From the standards perspective, I can tell you it's not likely that you're going to see a lot of changes to those standards, interim final rule. So you can, don't worry, David, it's going to be okay. You'll see guidance given. And when you ask folks in Washington why it is the interim final rule doesn't provide a lot of detail, the worry was, imagine if we provided field-level guidance in the regulation as to how data elements would get transferred from place to place. Oh, but then there was a change in the way we wanted to do it. Technology evolved. You'd have to change the regulation. So they've chosen to give us a framework in the interim final rule, and guidance will be coming. So that's the plan. So, of course, the whole organization of ONC and the various policy and standards committees you've described to actually implement high-tech is now in full force. It's working very well, and I feel a great sense of optimism for the country, as you've described. So the $2 billion in grants that ONC is giving out over the next year and the $44 billion to come 2011 to 2015 will be spent not only quickly, but wisely. And the wisely part is what's hard. So let me give you some sense of what we're doing in our community. So a series of grants, which I'll describe, the standards issues, the meaningful use achievement that we're all working for in Boston and in the state. On the grant side, we'll hear this week about $15 million coming to the state of Massachusetts for regional extension centers, the SWAT teams that will help with EHR implementation, and that's going through the state. We'll also hear this week on $15 million for healthcare information exchange, and that particular grant will be used for a variety of local and statewide activities. And there'll be a nice governance run through the Massachusetts eHealth initiative of working groups to allocate those $15 million wisely. There's $5 million coming to the state for community colleges for workforce training. And we recently submitted a $20 million grant for Boston as a beacon community. There was also a grant that came out of South Shore and one that came out of North Adams. The Boston grant that I was involved in engages all the major hospital systems in Boston. And so, David, you probably know the answer to this question, but I have to ask you. If you look at all the zip codes of greater Boston, so basically, take about 10 miles from where we're standing here, what is the penetration of EHRs live and in production today?